Garenville stood in the shadow of the council chamber, his hands clasped tightly behind his back. The room was massive, filled with beings from many different worlds. Tall ones, short ones, ones with scales, feathers, or skin that shone like metal. All of them wore robes or armor that showed their rank. Their eyes glinted with curiosity, suspicion, and authority. Garen had walked these halls before, but never with the weight of such an urgent warning pressing on him. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. The murmuring stopped. All eyes turned toward him. Garen's armor was dented and scratched, a testament to countless battles fought on distant worlds. His face, lined and scarred, told of survival in wars that many of these council members had only read about in their history archives. "I bring a warning," Garen said, his voice steady but urgent. "The humans of Earth are not what you think. They are young, yes, but dangerous beyond our understanding." The chamber was quiet for a moment. Then Ambassador Lorik, a tall blue-scaled alien with a long, curved crest on his head, leaned forward. "Dangerous? Explain yourself, Garenville. Humans are a primitive species. Their weapons are crude. Their fleets are small. How could they be a real threat to the Council?" Garen did not flinch. He had expected this skepticism. "I have seen them fight. I have faced their soldiers in small encounters. They are fast learners. They adapt to any situation. They find weaknesses we do not see. One squad of humans can disable a unit larger than itself in ways that defy logic. They think differently. They fight differently, and they survive where others would fall." Chancellor Fira, an insectoid being with translucent wings and many eyes, shook her head slowly. "You speak of anecdotal evidence, Garen. 1 or 2 encounters do not prove a species is a threat to the Council. Perhaps your judgment is clouded by your experience." Garon's jaw tightened. He had expected this too. "I fought alongside humans in a skirmish near the Orion Belt. My unit was almost wiped out. The humans were outnumbered and their weapons were primitive compared to ours. Yet they survived. They turned the battle in ways I could not predict. I saw their courage, their intelligence, and their ability to work as one. They are not what they seem. They are worse." A murmur ran through the chamber. Some of the younger council members whispered to each other. Some of the older ones frowned. But no one spoke aloud. Garen could feel the doubt forming, but he pressed on. "I do not ask you to attack them. I do not ask you to fear them unnecessarily. But mark my words. If the Council underestimates humans, it will be a mistake we cannot recover from. They may be small, they may be young, but they have something the galaxy rarely sees. Cunning, courage, and an instinct to survive that surpasses most species I have encountered. They can fight like no other." Lorik's eyes narrowed. "And what proof do you have, Garen?" "Proof, not stories." Garen reached into his pack and pulled out a small data pad. He activated it, and a hologram projected into the center of the chamber. Scenes of humans in battle flickered into view. Humans with strange angular weapons moved with surprising speed and coordination. Small squads of them infiltrated alien outposts and disabled machinery with precision. One scene showed a group of humans using the terrain of a rocky planet to trap and defeat a larger alien patrol. The council members leaned forward, some frowning, some whispering to each other. "These are isolated incidents," Fira said, her voice cold. "They do not represent the species as a whole. Perhaps these humans are lucky, or these were carefully chosen examples." Garen shook his head. "I was there. I have fought alongside them. Luck does not explain their skill. They think in ways we cannot anticipate. They are unpredictable, and that is what makes them dangerous." For a long moment, the council was silent. Garen felt the weight of every eye on him. Some were curious. Some were angry. Some were dismissive. But most were uncertain. Then Lorik leaned back and spoke. "Garen, your concern is noted, but the Council cannot act on the fear of a single war veteran. Humans are too distant, too small, and too young to consider a serious threat. We have more pressing concerns. This discussion is closed." Garen's stomach sank, but he kept his expression calm. He had expected this. "If the Council ignores this warning," he said quietly, "do not be surprised when humans appear in ways you never imagined." And the Council finds itself unprepared. The Council dismissed him with polite nods. Some members whispered that Garen had lost his mind in battle, that his experiences had made him paranoid. Others were silent, unsure of what to think. But none took immediate action. Garen left the chamber, his head held high. Outside, the sunlight of Zephyra burned bright against the city skyline. He walked through crowded streets filled with beings from hundreds of worlds, all busy with their own lives. He wondered if any of them understood the warning he had given. Probably not. He returned to his quarters feeling the weight of his failure. Not that he had failed in battle, but in convincing the galaxy to respect a species that had the power to change everything. He knew humans were dangerous not because they had the largest fleets or the strongest weapons, but because they had something the Council could not measure: ingenuity and courage combined. Garen thought back to his time observing human soldiers. He remembered Captain Ethan Clark, a human who had led a small squad against impossible odds and come out victorious. He remembered Lieutenant Laura Bennett, who had devised a plan to ambush alien scouts using nothing more than terrain and timing. And he remembered the humans themselves, their ability to remain calm under pressure, their willingness to risk everything for each other, and their strange kind of bravery that refused to be understood. He knew he could not stop warning them. He would continue to observe humans. He would continue to report what he saw. Even if the Council called him mad, he would not be silent. That night, Garen sat in his quarters and watched the stars. Earth was far away, a small blue dot among billions, yet it held the key to something the galaxy did not yet understand. And Garen knew that when the time came, humans would surprise everyone. But for now, he waited. He waited for the Council to realize their mistake. He waited for humans to prove what he had already seen, and he prepared himself for the day when his warnings would no longer be ignored. Garen Vell had returned to his observation post on the outskirts of the Zephyra system. From there, he could see the movements of human ships as they quietly explored nearby sectors. Unlike the Council, Garen did not underestimate them. He watched humans with careful attention, taking notes on their strategies, habits, and unexpected tactics. The human fleet was small, led by Captain Ethan Clark and Lieutenant Laura Bennett. Their ships were not as advanced as the Council's war vessels, but they moved with a kind of purpose that was difficult to read. The humans never traveled in predictable patterns. They used the terrain of asteroid belts, nebula clouds, and uncharted systems to hide from detection. They studied their surroundings and adapted to every situation. One day, Garen observed a scouting alien ship approaching the human fleet. The alien ship was sleek, fast, and armed with weapons far superior to anything the humans carried. The Council had sent it to test the humans and collect intelligence. Garen's eyes narrowed. He knew what would happen. The humans saw the ship before it could detect them. Captain Clark ordered a maneuver that Garen had not expected. The humans split their fleet into smaller units, each hiding among large asteroids. The alien ship attempted to scan for life signs, but the humans had spread themselves cleverly. The ship could not find a single vessel. Then the humans struck. Small squads of fighters launched from hidden positions. They attacked the alien ship's engines first, causing it to slow down and lose control. The alien crew was confused, trying to identify their attackers. The humans moved faster than the ship's sensors could track. Within minutes, the alien ship was disabled and drifted helplessly. Garen felt a surge of amazement. He had warned the Council about humans, but even he did not fully understand the extent of their ability to improvise. It was not just courage or strength. It was thinking, quick thinking, and teamwork. They used what they had in ways the Council had never taught them to do. Later, Garen reported the incident to the Council. He described the humans' movements, their use of terrain, and their ability to work together to overcome superior technology. Some members frowned. Others whispered among themselves. But Lorik and Fira dismissed it again. They were lucky, Lorik said. A single incident does not prove the species is dangerous. Garen clenched his fists, but he remained calm. Luck does not explain their planning. They anticipated the enemy's moves, adapted in real time, and executed a coordinated strike. This is not luck. This is instinct and intelligence. They are unpredictable, and that is why they are dangerous. The Council said nothing more. Garen realized he would not convince them yet. He returned to observing humans quietly, recording every detail he could. A few weeks later, another encounter occurred. This time, a small alien patrol was sent to a newly discovered human mining colony. The patrol believed the humans would surrender easily. They underestimated the colony. Garen watched as Lieutenant Laura Bennett organized the miners into defensive positions. Civilians became part of the defense, guided by military strategy. Humans set traps using mining equipment and explosives. When the patrol arrived, They were surprised by the humans' preparation. The battle was brief but decisive. The patrol tried to retreat, but humans anticipated every escape route. Small squads of human soldiers intercepted the alien patrol at every turn. By the end, the aliens were forced to flee, leaving equipment behind. Garen's log was filled with these events. He recorded every detail: how humans used deception, how they adapted to new threats, and how they remained calm under pressure. Every encounter proved what he had warned the Council. Humans were not to be underestimated. One evening, Garen visited the human fleet under a disguise. He wanted to see their strategy firsthand. Captain Clark and Lieutenant Bennett welcomed him, though they did not know his true identity. Garen watched as humans held a strategy meeting, discussing patrol routes, scouting missions, and possible threats. "What do you think they will do next?" Lieutenant Bennett asked her team. "We cannot predict exactly," Captain Clark said. "We have to prepare for multiple possibilities." "Always expect the unexpected?" Garen nodded silently. This was what made humans different. They did not rely on overwhelming force. They relied on thinking, on adapting, and on working as one. Even in small numbers, they could challenge much larger forces. Later, Garen returned to Zephyra and submitted another report to the Council. He included detailed observations and suggested that the Council reconsider their attitude toward Earth. He warned that ignoring humans could be a serious mistake. Still, the Council remained skeptical. Lorik shook his head. "You see threats where there are none. Humans are clever, yes, but they are small and inexperienced. Even if they survive some skirmishes, they cannot challenge the Council in full battle." Garan realized words alone would not convince them. Actions would. He needed to wait for humans to show their strength in a way the Council could not ignore. In the meantime, Garen continued his watch. He secretly assisted humans whenever he could. He provided information about alien patrols, weak points in enemy ships, and tactics that could give the humans an advantage. He worked quietly, unseen, knowing that one day humans would prove his warnings true. Humans continued their exploration. Captain Clark led his team into uncharted systems, mapping stars and planets. Lieutenant Bennett trained squads of soldiers and miners alike. The humans were calm, focused, and fearless. They faced dangers without panic and solved problems with creativity. Garen observed a training exercise aboard a human ship. Soldiers moved through simulated alien attacks, responding with speed and intelligence. Each soldier knew the other's strengths and weaknesses. They worked as one unit, covering each other and adapting to every challenge. "This is not a fleet," Garen said to himself. "This is a living organism. They think as one and act as one. The Council cannot understand this. They never could." As days passed, small incidents continued. Alien scouts sent to observe humans returned with reports of failure, confusion, or damage. Each time, Garen recorded the results, noting patterns in human strategy. Humans did not just fight. They learned, they adapted, and they grew stronger with every encounter. Garen knew the Council would eventually see humans as a threat, but it might be too late. For now, he remained patient, studying humans, assisting them when possible, and preparing for the day when the Council would face the truth. He thought often of Earth, a small blue planet, full of life, full of courage, and full of soldiers who could change the course of history. He had seen the Council dismiss many warnings before. He would not let humans be dismissed in the same way. One night, Garen watched a patrol fleet return to Earth orbit. Captain Clark and Lieutenant Bennett had successfully mapped a dangerous asteroid field, avoided alien detection, and completed a mining operation that supplied resources to their fleet. The humans celebrated quietly, sharing stories of clever maneuvers and teamwork. Garen smiled. This was the moment he had been waiting for. Not the battles, not the skirmishes, but the demonstration of human ingenuity and bravery. The humans were learning and improving faster than the Council could imagine. Garen recorded his final notes for the day. He wrote about humans as warriors, explorers, and thinkers. He emphasized that their true strength was not in weapons or numbers, but in mind, teamwork, and courage. Tomorrow, he would report again. And the day after, and the day after that. He knew the Council might continue to doubt him, but humans would continue to prove their worth. And when the time came, the galaxy would understand what Garen had seen all along. Earth's warriors were unlike any other species. Garenville watched from the observation station as the Council prepared a larger mission against Earth. They had grown tired of reports about human resistance, and they wanted to test humans with a real strike force. This fleet was much larger than any previous patrols, with dozens of warships carrying heavy weapons and fully trained soldiers. The Council expected humans to fall quickly. Garen frowned. The humans were outnumbered and outgunned, but he knew the outcome would not be simple. He had seen humans improvise, adapt, and survive where stronger forces had failed. He could only hope the fleet sent to Earth would not destroy them before he could assist. On Earth, Captain Ethan Clark stood on the bridge of the human command ship, the Horizon, reviewing the incoming data. "Sensors are picking up an unknown fleet entering our sector," he said. Lieutenant Laura Bennett, standing beside him, leaned over the console. "How many ships?" she asked. "Too many to fight directly," Clark replied. "We'll have to use strategy, not firepower." The humans did not panic. They had faced dangers before, and every time they had learned something new. Captain Clark ordered the fleet to move into an asteroid field nearby. The rocks were dense and irregular, perfect for ambushing a larger force. Garen watched closely, impressed by their planning. Humans did not rely on matching strength with strength. They relied on thinking, on positioning, and on using every advantage the environment provided. The alien fleet appeared at the edge of the asteroid field, their weapons ready. They expected easy victory. The Council had sent them to test humans, not to be outsmarted. As the aliens moved forward, small human ships darted between asteroids. They fired carefully aimed shots to disable engines, shields, and communications. The aliens tried to respond, but the humans disappeared and reappeared from different angles, confusing the larger ships. Garen smiled quietly. This was exactly what he had predicted. Humans did not fight like any other species in the galaxy. Their coordination, speed, and ability to adapt in real time gave them an advantage no Council officer could calculate. One alien cruiser fired a large energy blast, hoping to crush the human fleet. The humans anticipated it. They scattered into smaller groups using the asteroids as cover. The blast hit rocks and debris, harmlessly exploding far from any ship. Captain Clark led a group of fighters toward the cruiser's engines. Lieutenant Bennett followed, guiding a squad of young pilots. They fired precise shots that disabled the ship's propulsion and weapons. The cruiser drifted helplessly among the rocks, unable to fight or escape. Garen transmitted a small signal to the humans, giving them critical information about the cruiser's weak points and patrol patterns. The humans received it and used it immediately, taking down another cruiser before the alien fleet could react. The Council would have been shocked to see this. From Garen's perspective, it was exactly what he had warned them about. Humans were not just brave, they were clever. They used observation, timing, and adaptation in ways that made the alien tactics fail. Despite the losses, the alien fleet continued to push forward. They believed sheer numbers would overwhelm the humans. Garen knew otherwise. He watched as the human squad divided the alien forces, forcing them to fight separately rather than together. Captain Clark and his squad moved quickly. They set traps using debris, energy nets, and even small asteroids. Aliens who tried to chase them were caught or disabled. Lieutenant Bennett guided her pilots with calm precision, ensuring no human ship was lost unnecessarily. Garen felt a strange pride. These were humans, a species so small compared to the Council's fleets, yet they moved with intelligence and courage that outmatched even the most disciplined alien soldiers. The battle continued for hours. The humans used every trick they knew, improvising when necessary. They disabled communications on alien ships, making coordination difficult. They forced the fleet into narrow areas where larger ships could not maneuver effectively. They struck with speed and precision, and they survived. Meanwhile, back at Zephyra, some Council members began to notice strange patterns in the reports. Lorik frowned at the incoming data. "How can this be?" he asked. "These humans are surviving against forces far larger than themselves. They should have fallen." Fira, his Council colleague, shook her head. "Perhaps we underestimated them," she admitted quietly. Others in the chamber murmured, but no one wanted to admit it openly. Pride and authority made them resist the truth. Garen continued to watch the battlefield. He guided the humans carefully, providing information that could save lives and ensure victory. He was careful not to interfere too much, allowing them to demonstrate their skill. Still, Even his guidance helped them anticipate movements the humans could not yet see. Captain Clark noticed the success of their maneuvers. "They're stronger than we expected," he said. "We need to stay sharp. Any mistake could cost us everything." Lieutenant Bennett nodded. "Then we adapt. We fight smart, we fight together, and we survive." The humans did not rely on luck. They relied on observation, intelligence, and cooperation. Every ship had a purpose. Every soldier knew their role. They turned disadvantages into opportunities, and they made the alien fleet pay for every move. By the end of the battle, the alien fleet was in retreat. Dozens of ships had been destroyed or disabled, and the survivors fled in disarray. Garen watched silently, knowing that this day had proven everything he had warned the Council about humans. Captain Clark and Lieutenant Bennett gathered their fleet. They had minimal losses compared to the alien forces, and their soldiers celebrated quietly. Knowing they had survived impossible odds, Garen felt satisfaction. The humans had demonstrated what he had predicted. They were more than their size or numbers. They were warriors in the truest sense. Later, Garen transmitted his report to the Council. This time, the report was different. It was not a warning. It was a record of human success. Every move, every tactic, every adaptive response was noted. He explained that humans had survived a battle against overwhelming odds and had outsmarted a much larger force. Some council members were silent. Some whispered. Lorik stared at the data, unable to hide his shock. Fira's many eyes blinked rapidly as she reviewed the report. The truth was unavoidable. Garen had been right all along. Humans were not a primitive species. They were a force unlike any other in the galaxy. Garen left the council chamber quietly, his mission complete. He had warned them, and now they had seen the evidence. Humans had proven their skill and courage, and no one could deny it. He returned to Earth orbit in time to see the humans tending to their damaged ships, repairing, learning, and preparing for the next challenge. They did not boast or celebrate loudly. They focused on improvement and teamwork. They were always ready to adapt. Garen watched quietly and knew the next stages of this story were just beginning. Humans had survived, but the Council would not forget. The galaxy would soon learn what he had already known. Earth's warriors were capable of feats beyond imagination, and underestimating them could be a mistake that no one could recover from. For now, Garen simply observed, proud to be a witness to their courage, intelligence, and unbreakable spirit. The humans had survived their first true test, and the galaxy had begun to take notice. Garen Vel watched from his observation post as reports arrived from the outer edges of the Zephyra system. The Council had decided to send a massive fleet to Earth, confident that humans would finally be overwhelmed. This fleet was unlike any the humans had faced before. Hundreds of alien warships, bristling with weapons and shields, moved with precision and authority. The Council expected humans to fall within hours. On Earth, Captain Ethan Clark and Lieutenant Laura Bennett received the data. "They're sending everything," Clark said quietly, his eyes scanning the screen. "We have no hope of facing them directly." "We never do," Bennett replied. "We fight smart. We fight together. That's always been our way." The humans prepared quickly. Repair crews worked on damaged ships, pilots trained in simulations, and ground teams reinforced defensive positions. Every human soldier knew their role and their responsibilities. Every civilian willing to help was trained in basic defense tactics. They did not panic because panic had never helped them. Garen studied their preparations closely. The humans had faced smaller fleets before, but this was different. The sheer size of the alien force was terrifying. Still, Garen felt a strange confidence. He knew humans had something the aliens could not calculate: creativity, adaptability, and courage that refused to break. As the alien fleet approached, human ships moved into position near asteroid fields, planetary rings, and space stations. Captain Clark coordinated multiple small strike teams, each using the environment to their advantage. Bennett oversaw communications, ensuring that every unit could share information instantly. The first attack came swiftly. Alien warships fired energy blasts that could destroy human ships in seconds. The humans scattered, weaving through asteroids, using debris for cover, and targeting weak points in alien shields. Garen transmitted critical intelligence to the humans, showing gaps in the alien formation and weaknesses in their weapons. Humans received it instantly and adapted their strategy. They did not rely on brute force. They used what they had: thinking faster and moving smarter than the enemy expected. A massive cruiser fired at a group of human ships. Captain Clark maneuvered his fleet so the shots missed, sending the cruiser into a trap. Human fighters struck from unexpected angles, hitting engines and weapons. The cruiser was disabled within minutes. The alien fleet regrouped, sending more ships forward. They had never expected humans to fight like this. Their sensors could not predict the rapid changes, the sudden maneuvers, and the precise attacks. Garen watched with growing pride as humans turned the battlefield into a maze that favored them. Lieutenant Bennett led a squadron through a dense asteroid belt, using the rocks to hide from larger ships. They fired on alien vessels, disappearing before the enemy could respond. Each move was calculated, precise, and effective. Even alien ships with superior firepower were vulnerable to humans who thought differently. On the bridge of the horizon, Captain Clark watched his fleet with steady eyes. "Stay focused," he said. "They think we'll run. They think we'll panic. We won't. Keep moving. Keep fighting." Garen observed another small human squad that had taken control of a damaged alien ship. Using quick thinking and minimal resources, the humans turned the ship against its own fleet. Energy blasts that would have destroyed a planet-sized structure now targeted enemy weapons and communications. The aliens were caught off guard. Some of the council members began to realize their error. Lorik watched incoming reports with disbelief. "How can this be?" he asked. "They should have fallen already. Hundreds of our ships against a small human fleet, and they are winning." Fira, the insectoid chancellor, blinked rapidly. I underestimated them," she admitted, her voice almost a whisper. Others in the chamber avoided looking at her. Pride and authority prevented many from speaking the truth aloud, but the evidence was impossible to ignore. Garen continued to observe and guide. He did not interfere directly, but his knowledge of the alien tactics allowed humans to anticipate attacks and respond effectively. Small human squads disabled key alien weapons, disrupted communications, and forced the fleet into chaotic formations. The battle raged for hours. Human ingenuity turned weaknesses into strengths, disadvantages into opportunities. Every move, every decision, and every action was precise. Humans did not rely on strength alone. They relied on intelligence, adaptability, and courage. Garen thought back to his warnings. For years, the Council had dismissed him as paranoid. Now they were witnessing what he had described. Humans who could survive overwhelming odds and outthink superior forces. He felt a sense of vindication but also concern. The Council might retaliate harder, and humans would need every advantage they had. On the battlefield, Captain Clark noticed a group of alien ships attempting to flank their positions. He ordered a counter-maneuver, using smaller ships to lure the enemy into a narrow pass between two massive asteroids. The trap worked perfectly. The alien ships collided with debris, were disabled, or fell into crossfire from human fighters. Lieutenant Bennett coordinated with ground teams on nearby colonies. Human soldiers and volunteers used mining equipment, transport vehicles, and improvised weapons to disrupt enemy supply lines. Even on the planets below, humans fought with creativity and intelligence, turning civilian resources into tactical advantages. Garen's transmissions guided them further. He warned of incoming ambushes, suggested attack points, and shared alien weaknesses that humans could exploit. Each suggestion was used immediately, further demonstrating human ability to act decisively and intelligently under pressure. By the end of the battle, the alien fleet had suffered heavy losses. Many ships were destroyed or disabled, and survivors retreated in confusion. Humans had not only defended their planet, but they had inflicted significant damage on a force the Council had assumed would crush them within hours. Garen recorded everything. This was the moment he had waited for. Undeniable proof that humans were not only capable but exceptional. Captain Clark and Lieutenant Bennett gathered their fleet and assessed the damage. Human casualties were minimal compared to the alien losses, and their soldiers moved quickly to repair ships, treat the wounded, and prepare for any further attacks. The humans did not celebrate loudly. They focused on improvement, teamwork, and readiness for the next challenge. Garen smiled quietly. This was what made humans different. They did not fight for glory or recognition. They fought to survive, to protect each other, and to achieve their goals with intelligence and courage. Back at the Council, Lorik and Fira admitted privately that they had misjudged humans. The evidence was undeniable. Garen's warnings, once dismissed as paranoia, were now proven true. Some members were embarrassed, others afraid, and a few quietly acknowledged the importance of respecting Earth's warriors in the future. Garen returned to his observation post, satisfied but vigilant. Humans had survived their first massive test, but the Council would not forget. Other fleets would come. Other challenges would arise. Humans would need to continue using their intelligence, adaptability, and courage to face each new threat. He watched Captain Clark and his team as they trained, repaired, and prepared. Humans moved like a living organism, coordinating, adapting, and learning with every action. Garen knew that the next time the Council sent a fleet, humans would be ready. They would surprise the galaxy again, and this time the truth could not be ignored. Garen recorded his final log for the day. He described the human strategy, their ingenuity, and their bravery. He emphasized that their true strength was not numbers or weapons, but their ability to think, adapt, and act decisively under pressure. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now, humans had proven themselves in a way that the Council could no longer deny. Garen knew that Earth's warriors were unlike any other species he had encountered. The galaxy was beginning to learn a lesson that some would never forget. Do not underestimate humans. The Council on Zephyra was in chaos. Reports of human victories continued to arrive, each more astonishing than the last. Alien fleets that had once seemed unstoppable were being defeated by small, well-coordinated human forces. Lorik and Fira could no longer deny the truth. Humans were not only resilient, they were brilliant strategists, fearless warriors, and unpredictable in ways the Council could not understand. Garen Vel watched quietly from his observation station. He had spent years warning the Council, and now the evidence was undeniable. The humans had survived the Council's largest assault, and they had done so with skill, intelligence, and courage that surpassed anything he had ever witnessed. On Earth, Captain Ethan Clark and Lieutenant Laura Bennett assessed the aftermath of the last battle. Their fleet had suffered damage, but losses were minimal compared to the destruction inflicted on the alien forces. Human ships moved quickly to repair systems, treat the wounded, and reorganize for the next possible attack. "We did it," Bennett said quietly. "They didn't expect this." Clark shook his head. "They still won't understand us. We have to be ready for the next wave. They'll send more ships and they'll try different strategies, but we'll be ready." Humans worked tirelessly. Every soldier, every pilot, and every civilian willing to help trained for the next challenge. They studied alien technology, developed countermeasures, and adapted their strategies based on each encounter. Garen observed in amazement. Humans learned faster than any species he had ever seen. Meanwhile, the Council struggled to come to terms with the defeats. Lorik and Fira met in private, discussing the unprecedented situation. "We underestimated them," Lorik said, his voice low. "I thought they were primitive. I thought a small fleet would crush them. But they've done more with less than any species we've ever faced." Fira nodded. "We ignored Garen Vel's warnings for too long. We treated them as a minor threat, and now the galaxy is watching humans in a new way. We cannot undo this. We can only learn and adapt." Garen decided it was time to act. He transmitted a private message to Captain Clark and Lieutenant Bennett, offering assistance in understanding the Council's next moves. The humans received his guidance and used it immediately. They prepared for future encounters with an intelligence that matched their courage. The next wave of alien forces arrived weeks later. This fleet was even larger and more heavily armed than before. The Council believed that sheer size would finally overwhelm humans. But Garen knew better. Humans had studied their tactics, learned from previous battles, and adapted to every possible scenario. Captain Clark and Lieutenant Bennett led their forces with calm precision. Human ships moved unpredictably, striking from hidden positions using debris and asteroids for cover, and coordinating attacks with perfect timing. Every human soldier knew their role, and every maneuver was planned and executed flawlessly. Garen observed the battle closely. Humans disabled alien ships with clever tactics, using the enemy's own momentum against them. They trapped larger ships in asteroid fields, forced cruisers into crossfire, and disrupted enemy communications. Alien commanders were frustrated, unable to predict human movements or counter their strategies. "This is unbelievable," Garen said quietly. "They fight as one, think as one, and adapt faster than any fleet I've seen." On the battlefield, human ingenuity continued to shine. Lieutenant Bennett led a squadron to disable the enemy's energy generators, cutting off power to a large portion of the fleet. Captain Clark coordinated ground and space teams to attack weak points simultaneously, creating confusion among alien forces. Garen transmitted advice when necessary, but the humans were already thinking ahead. They anticipated attacks, adapted in real time, and used every resource at their disposal. It was not luck, it was skill, intelligence, and courage. The alien fleet began to retreat. Many ships were destroyed and survivors fled in disarray. Council members were shocked. Lorik and Fira realized that humans had not only survived, they had won decisively. The Council could no longer ignore Garen's warnings. Humans were no longer a minor threat. They were a species that demanded respect. Back on Earth, humans worked quickly to repair damage and care for the wounded. They did not celebrate loudly. Their focus was on improvement, learning, and readiness for future challenges. Captain Clark addressed his crew. "We've proven ourselves today, but the fight isn't over. We will continue to adapt, continue to learn, and continue to protect our world." Lieutenant Bennett added, "Every challenge we face makes us stronger. We fight not just to survive, but to show that we can overcome any obstacle." Garen watched quietly, feeling pride and satisfaction. Humans had survived impossible odds and demonstrated abilities that no one in the galaxy had anticipated. They had turned disadvantages into strengths, weaknesses into opportunities, and small numbers into overwhelming effectiveness. The Council finally acknowledged their mistake. A meeting was called to discuss the human species seriously. Lorik and Fira admitted their errors, praising Garen for his insight and warning that the Council could not underestimate Earth again. Some Council members were embarrassed, some afraid, and a few were quietly grateful to Garen for proving the truth. Garen returned to Earth orbit, no longer just an observer. He became a liaison between humans and the Council, advising on interstellar diplomacy and strategy. Humans continued to expand peacefully, but their military prowess was now recognized throughout the galaxy. Captain Clark and Lieutenant Bennett trained new squads, explored new sectors, and strengthened defenses. Humans did not seek conquest. They sought knowledge, cooperation, and survival. Yet the galaxy knew that Earth's warriors could stand against overwhelming odds and emerge victorious. Garen reflected on the journey. He had warned the Council, observed humans, and witnessed their victories. He had seen courage, intelligence, and ingenuity in ways the galaxy had never imagined. Humans had proven themselves not through fear, but through skill, teamwork, and unwavering determination. The story of Earth's warriors spread across the galaxy. Other species began to treat humans with respect, some with caution and some with awe. The Council learned a valuable lesson. Never underestimate a species that fights not just with weapons, but with intelligence, adaptability, and courage. Garen watched the stars from his post, thinking about the humans he had come to admire. He knew more challenges would come, but he also knew humans would meet them with the same determination and cleverness they had shown in every battle. Captain Clark, Lieutenant Bennett, and the human fleet prepared for the future. They had proven themselves, but they remained vigilant. Every human soldier, pilot, and volunteer knew the value of intelligence, teamwork, and courage. They had survived the impossible, and the galaxy had learned to respect them. Garen smiled quietly. Humans had done what he had predicted. They had survived, they had adapted, and they had shown the galaxy that Earth's warriors were unlike any other species. The Council had finally understood the truth, and the humans continued to grow stronger, wiser, and more united with every passing day. The galaxy would never again mistake the small blue planet called Earth. Humans had earned their place among the stars, not just as explorers or settlers, but as warriors who could survive anything and overcome any odds. And Garen Vell, who had once been dismissed as a mad veteran, finally knew the satisfaction of seeing the truth he had spoken for so long, proven beyond any doubt. Humans had earned respect, and the galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. Do not underestimate Earth's warriors.